When it rains, it really does pour for Kris Boyd, and unfortunately for him, the weather forecast above his head supporting Rangers always seems to be monsoon. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Football. Yes, heavy rain for Kris Boyd. It's always misery for Kris Boyd. When you look at him and Sutton and the rivalry that they have, Celtic versus Rangers, Kris Boyd's the guy that's always with the sad face. He's always the one that has to sit there and watch his team lose and eat the humble pie and listen to Sutton rant and rave and talk about how great Celtic are and how poor Rangers are. And you can see that, Kris Boyd, I think, has had enough. We've seen on Saturday there, Sunday, whatever. He wasn't pleased and he was borderline depressed. He came out on Sky Sports and he says not a single Rangers player would get into the Celtic starting 11, and we took him at his word. We actually compared both starting 11s and we agreed with him. We thought, look, he's actually spot on here. Not one Rangers player would get into the starting 11 of Celtic's team. But however, Kris Boyd has since then doubled down and he says that even the Celtic subs would walk straight into the Rangers team. So not even the best 11 that Celtic have. Boyd now believes the Celtic subs would walk straight in to this current Rangers side, and I think that just goes to show you how upset he is. So he was on Sky Sports the following day after the Old Firm derby. He did an interview with them, 15 minutes, pretty good, go check out if you want. But he told Sky Sports News, and by the way, Sky Sports News had him on because they said his numbers online did really well and they wanted to get him on for a second interview. So I don't know, apparently people were enjoying the Kris Boyd meltdown, and it was like one of Sky Sports' most watched viral media clips in a very long time. So who knows, maybe we'll see Kris Boyd doing more stuff with Sky Sports News. But this is what he said to them the other day in the interview. He said, quote, "At this moment in time, yes, I think on current form, the Celtic starting 11 from the weekend there is not one Rangers player who would get into that. I would argue with anybody who could put forward a case. And if you want to rub salt in the wounds as well, you could probably say there are at least 4 or 5 players on the Celtic bench who would walk right into the Rangers starting team. You look at Celtic right now and they look far superior all over the pitch." Butland has obviously been an England internationalist, and last season you would have him ahead of Hart because he was coming to an end. Schmeichel though has come in and he hasn't conceded a goal yet in the league, has he? I think the Rangers squad is weaker than it was before. There has been money spent. You're going to come in for criticism. That's what happens when you play for a big football club. I don't agree with the fans turning up at Ibrox and hurling abuse at the players. That is not needed. It's not going to help anyone. End of quote. So Boyd there giving his opinion on what players would go in, what wouldn't go in. He says that he would have Butland in based on last season's form, but not this season's form because Schmeichel is better than him. And then he also touched on the Ibrox, meltdown, or the Ibrox riot. It wasn't even a riot. I wouldn't call it a riot. A confrontation even, or whatever, between Tavernier and a few of the Rangers fans. But let's see if Kris Boyd's got a point then. So we agree that none of the Rangers starting 11 would go into the Celtic team. However, let's look at the Celtic substitutes from that game against Rangers that they won 3-0, and we're just going to go through them here and we're going to see who we put in the team. Now, there was 9 players on the Celtic bench, so just going to go through them all and I'm going to see whether or not I would fit them in to the Rangers starting 11. Right, first off we have Engels. Haven't seen this guy play, but he's a record-breaking transfer player. He cost 11 million. I think it's a no-brainer. I think it's an absolute no-brainer that he, A, goes into the Rangers team, and I believe, B, sooner or later, he will go into the Celtic team. So yeah, haven't seen him play, but I mean, he cost 11 million. Of course he's going in there. So Engels, first player I would put into the Rangers starting 11. Who would I put him in over? I mean, it doesn't really matter. I would go with Diamande. So there you go, Engels is in. Up next we have James Forrest. A year ago I'd have been like, no, but if you look at last year's form, He was one of Celtic's best wingers, maybe their best winger. He definitely contributed to them winning the league. And this season, he seems to be okay. He seems to be on a similar path for him. So I would put James Forrest in. I don't rate Czerny. I thought Czerny was shocking against Celtic, and I'm not a big fan of Matondo either. So I would put Forrest in. I would put James Forrest in. So far, both the Celtic players that I've said would go into the team. Right, up next we have Adam Adair. Now, I understand most people would put him in. I personally wouldn't. I think Dessers is a better player than Adam Adair, and I'll get shit for that, and that's fine. I don't care. I actually think Dessers is a wee bit underrated, and I've said a lot of shite about Dessers, but for me, I would pick him. If Hearts could sign one player between Dessers and Adair to replace Shankland, I'd pick Dessers, and I genuinely mean that. So I'd keep Dessers in over Adair, but I totally accept that most people would go with either. It is what it is. Luke McCowan. Yeah, I'd put Luke McCowan in, just signed for Celtic, but for me, he's definitely better than what Rangers have. Again, I would probably put him in over Diomande, but if I'm already putting Engels in Diomande's position, then I'll put McCowan in place of Sterling, and you can have a good young Scottish midfield duo of McCowan and Barron in there. So I'd go with that. Right, up next we have Palma. Again, I would put Palma in. I think he's better than Tierney, and I think he's better than Matondo. So, I mean, right now, I've got 4 out of the 5 in, and then you can definitely make a case for Adair. So, up next, Ralston. A couple of years ago, this would have seemed unthinkable, but in 2024, Ralston is probably a better pick than Tavernier. Even though Tavernier will score you goals, and he's got the assists and the free kicks and the set-piece ability and the penalties, I think Ralston's less of a liability. And I'm saying that after the whole Euro shit. I think Ralston would do a better job defending against Maida than Tavernier does. So I would put Ralston in. As for the goalkeeper, no. Butland's been poor this season, but I wouldn't put the goalkeeper in. Trusty has just signed for 5 mil, or 6 mil even. The fact the guy's a £6 million player, I've never seen him play, but the fact he's a £6 million player, you would have to assume that he could go into that Rangers team, especially considering that Rangers look shaky at the back. So I would put Trusty in over Proper. And then the signing from Barcelona, the young kid, impossible. I don't know if I'd put him in or not. I think Hefty actually looks alright, so I wouldn't put him in. So out of the 9 Celtic subs, and they only had 9, I would put 6 in, but I can totally understand why people would put Adair in as well, so possibly 7 out of the 9, and I'm sure people would push to put in the young kid that they got on loan for Barcelona. So yeah, I agree with Kris Boyd. It's sad for Rangers. I don't think there's ever been a time where it was so one-sided. I can't remember Celtic or Rangers having such a superior squad. Normally either team has had at least one key player that would go into the other one, but right now we seem to be at a time where this Rangers team is really, really poor, and even the good players are not performing well right now, and the players at Celtic are performing well. I think if you're basing it on overall ability, then maybe there's a few Rangers players there that I wouldn't take out for some of the substitutes, but on current form, there's nobody really in that Rangers team that's playing great. I think the best player's probably been Connor Barron, and I would keep him in. He is the one player I would definitely keep in, and I wouldn't replace obviously Butland with the goalkeeper, and I would keep Hefty in there. But I mean, other than that, this Celtic team right now unfortunately is a lot better than Rangers, and Kris Boyd's right. It must be a painful thing to say, but it's obvious. You can't fucking deny it. It's right in front of you. Celtic are the team winning trophies. Celtic are the team winning the derbies, and the numbers, results, facts, they speak for themselves. So that's what it is. Anyway, guys, that's it. Let us know, out of these 9 Celtic substitutes, who would you put into the Rangers starting 11? Would you put them all in? Is there a couple you'd put in? Would you put most of them in? Let us know what you think down below, and yeah, let us know Ida or Dessers. I want to know what people think, Ida or Dessers. I personally prefer Dessers, which I know people will say that's insane, but I just don't rate Adam Adair. I don't. But anyway, that's it. Catch you in the next one. Till then, peace.